thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Tell us about you. Who are you? Who's Holly Friedman?
All right, so Holly Friedman. I've been living in the district for like close to 30 years. I have a husband, been married. I'm bad with dates, but I think 23 years, 24 years. But don't tell him that exactly. 2 daughters, 21 and 20. My oldest is at the University of Colorado in Boulder, and my younger daughter is at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. And they're amazing. They're living their best life. So I decided
Newman grads?
Both Newman grads.
So you've been...
And so I kind of decided when they went when they went to college, I did 2 things. One, empty nester. What did I do? I have some time on my hands. I'm going to get a master's in public policy at Tulane right now. And then I decided to run for office. So. And I work full-time for Jason Williams' office right now, the district attorney's office.
So a few things on your plate. But you used to work in Joe DeRusso's office,
Absolutely.
Right?
So Joe's been a dear friend of mine for close to 15 years. And he called me to go to work for him at his office as Constituent Services Director. I worked for him for about 4 years. And it was probably one of the most rewarding times in a career. Because in Joe's office, you could actually help people. And I'm a take action person, and I want to get things done. And to be able to help people with their sewage and water board bills, to help people with navigating street construction, right? To help businesses say, the street construction's in front of their business, and they're cutting off the water with no notice. They're cutting off energy with no...
They're still doing that, by
the way. I know, but we can only help one-on-one sometimes. But yes, but to be a part of that and be a part of the community and to help people was just so important to me. And I took the job to heart. I will tell you, Joe, when I worked for him, I said I can only come on part-time because I was also at that point the MPA president, and which was so it's the Newman Parents Association, and so I was the president of that at that time. So I went part-time, and then I realized I got hoodwinked because Joe DeRusso doesn't know part-time. Joe DeRusso runs full-time all the time, and that's great because that was a great way to learn.
As long as you respond to your emails 24 hours a day, you can be part-time.
Exactly, you can be part-time. And so that was really the tone of the office, right, which is great. I learned from Joe. You answered everyone's phone call. You answered every email. You responded. And even if you had to tell someone, I don't want to say bad news, maybe not the news they were expecting, you still had that conversation. And you still engaged, and you still had the hard conversations because it's important.
So I think you just said something that maybe some of us don't realize, which is council members have people working in their offices that actually respond to emails and phone calls.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, Joe always said that was the most important job there was, is connecting with people and responding and answering and helping the constituents.
Do you think we have a problem in the city of not reporting the right things and complaining about, that we complain a lot, but we don't actually get the information back to? Was that a problem, not actually getting information quickly?
So that's a great question, because a lot of people, and you should do this, I'm not saying, but report their issue to 311. But then, because residents in District A and constituents in District A are fantastic about wanting to have their voices heard, they would also call the council office. But we love that. When I was there, I created a data dashboard that hopefully they're still using, that you could see was transparent. And every time we had, it would self-populate. So every time a constituent called or emailed or stopped Joe in a grocery store or, saw me on a soccer field, we would put all of that data in the system so I could track and I could tell DPW when they would say, well, here's a better example. The mayor's office, if anyone remembered when their trash collection wasn't being picked up, a couple of years ago.
Like last week?
I called the mayor's office and I said, we're getting an uptick in trash collection reports not being collected. And the mayor's office has said, no, there's no problem. I don't know what you're talking about. So because I had created this data dashboard, I was able to download all the data, put it on a map, download it, send it to her office and say, well, what does this look? Because it's a sea of red dots not being collected. So the data doesn't lie, and the data tells a story.
And it's probably early detection. of
Absolutely, exactly. So you can track the data. I was able to track the data through neighborhoods, or by neighborhood, or by complaint, or by agency. Is DPW, or are they winning this week, or is it Sewage and Water Board? They were always close competitors, but
competitor for the wrong thing.
Exactly, exactly.
So you were at constituent services for District A, Joe's office. And then you moved to Jason Williams' office, the DA's office. What are you doing there?
I got this great unsolicited job offer from Jason Williams. And, Jason's hard to turn down because he gave me a unique opportunity to develop a new project. And the new project is it's Open Source Intelligence. I'm the director of the OSINT team. And what we are in charge of is using data, using technology that we get from the defendants to help enhance the case, make it better. Like if they leave a digital footprint, that we're able to say they were at this location at this time. So it helps with the prosecutions. But we're also able to collaborate with NOPD. And we're also able to be real partners with NOPD, which I think was a missing piece in our criminal justice program before. And so early on, if NOPD gets a cell phone at a crime scene from a defendant, they would collect all this data. They would collect text messages, phone calls, iCloud accounts, social media accounts. But the data, because NOPD doesn't have the resources, they're undermanned.
They don't have a crime lab.
They don't have a crime lab. And quite frankly, they're working on this murder, and they have 5 more that they're waiting in the queue to do. They have so much to do, and we want to be better partners. So we're like, give us all that data. We will analyze it. We will make it better. We will help you on the investigative side. Then once your report's done and at the DA's office, now we're helping the attorneys also, because we can create timelines. We can create video. We take the videos from the phones and tell them what they're doing. So we're using data once again to kind of help with solve the crime, solve the investigation, but then also at trial, take it to help the ADAs.
Is it coming into like a Cellbrite system that you're running, where you, like Jefferson Parish is doing?
So it's Cellbrite, but then analyzing it from Cellbrite. Okay. So it's similar.
So
Cellbrite.
It's looking at their network of the people that they know, and it's alerting you that they're part of it. This contact in their phone's actually a drug ring up in Seattle, and it's giving you all that intel. So
that's great. So we're actually making a criminal enterprise map right now. So we're able to say, we are able to take a defendant A talks to defendant B 600 times this month. They are connected, and we're starting to make connections where otherwise we didn't have them before. So the wall at my office now is one big criminal enterprise map, and surprisingly enough, it's not that many bad actors, but they're doing most of the bad acting crime. And the crime right now, this program is focusing on violent crime and reducing that. But then we hope with more funding that we will be able to just handle everything.
How often are their own text messages just destroying their cases?
A lot,
and making your case,
and thank goodness. Text messages.
Yeah. They love telling someone else what they did.
Yes, and they love posting about it on social media. Sometimes in the same outfit, they will commit the crime. They'll be in the same recognizable shoes, right, or recognizable shirt with the murder weapon, because they have to post about it. And they don't say I did this, but we have the digital footprint, right? This at this time, at this street corner where the crime happened, and they posted. So
you're doing some pretty cool things there that seem like, we've seen a substantial drop in crime.
Yes.
It keeps going down. We've been very communicative with Ann Kirkpatrick since the day she got to New Orleans, and I personally feel like she's done an incredible job, and it's taken a whole team from Metropolitan Crime Commission to Jason's Renaissance. And why leave? You're doing great work over there. Why leave the DA's office when everything's going the right direction?
Yeah, I love my time in the DA's office, and I think I'm also doing a lot for the community by being there. But this is a unique opportunity where I feel like it's getting hard to live in New Orleans, right? It's hard to own a business in New Orleans. It's hard to live here. It's hard to raise our children. It's hard for our children to come back to New Orleans after college because we may not have the economic growth to provide them with a job or living circumstances. So it was important to me now to want to give back to New Orleans and try to make our community better and try to give us new focus and to revitalize the great city that we have and the community that we have. And community is very important to me. And so,
How do we do that? I mean, we talk to Royce DePlessis regularly, getting legislative updates, and he says, and I say, I guess y'all spent the whole time in that legislative session working on the truck, the rent-a-truck problem, which is the study every year that comes out that says how many, Penske trucks or Ryder trucks are leaving a state versus coming into a state.
Yeah.
And we're always on the wrong side of that.
We make it hard to do business in New Orleans as well.
So how does a council member kind of fix that?
Okay, so how we do it a lot of different ways, right? Like I said, I'm getting my master's in policy right now. And one thing that I think is the most important thing about policy is you have to talk to the constituents and the business owners. Because if you do not talk to people about what the best policy is, who are you writing for? Who are you representing? So to me, I represent District A. I want to hear from District A. But part of the policy, safety and permits, has to be totally revamped. We should not make it so hard to get a permit to open a business or to, renovate a house. I mean, we are all, yeah. Like all we're doing is we're slowing progress for everybody, right? We're slowing progress for the residents. We're slowing progress for the construction crews. We're slowing progress for everyone. And it should not be that difficult. And so one of the things I want to first and foremost is really revamp safety and permits and the enforcement side as well. I've written a few policy papers already that on day one I'm ready just to start moving ahead. But that's safety and permits is my number one.
What's happening with that now?
Well, wait. Let's we'll get to questions in a second. So, because I want to take this down to we've had a very activist council.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And probably because we've had a very inactive mayor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she's been active. What would the right word be?
Inadequate.
We'll let everybody else fill. Everyone else can put their own word in. But so I think the council has kind of taken that power vacuum and filled it in.
Yes.
But I feel like it's so reactionary.
It is.
Everything seems like a building fell down. Well, now we need a whole new task force or a group in safety and permits that's going to come out and a great example is STR. Mm-hmm. The lady's name that comes here with some regularity that runs the STR section, Celeste. Celeste is a nice woman, smart.
Yep.
I think her heart's in the right place, and she is given this impossible task.
Yes.
Shut down every STR in the city that's operating illegally, which are people for the most part that are just trying to make their mortgage because rents stink. I mean, insurance is high.
Exactly.
Like all these things. And that's fine. Let's play by the rules. But the city council changed the rules 3 times.
3 times, and then really put it back on the residents every single time. Every time. And I never liked the lottery system because all that is giving is that people, one, if they didn't get it, no, I'm going to apply for a special permit, and then it was granted. It never made sense.
They would argue that the courts forced them to this and all these things, and that's the courts did a job. Whether it's agreed with or not, I think the problem is we're just changing the rules all the time.
All the time.
And for everyone in here is a business owner, essentially. I mean, nobody gets a W-2 except for a few people in here. And I literally mean 3. So we all own a business selling real estate. And every single time there's a hurdle, it messes things up, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I've gotten calls when I worked in Joe's office from title companies saying, I just need this one thing. This address is wrong with Sewage and Water Board, but it's correct on this, and I can't get anyone to talk to me. Can you help? And we can, but that shouldn't be, you need to make phone calls to people you know to get things done.
Right. That's dead on. I think that is the problem that, it's great we have 311. Now if we could just make it happen instead of having to also bother your office and you've got to employ people to do a job that's already employed in somewhere else in the city.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's probably about my questions. Anybody else or anything else you want to add before we open it up to questions that I didn't ask you and should have?
No. Look, I think we covered everything.
I think
we covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time.
David, did you have a question?
I did. I was like, why is nothing happening now with all that whole system that's been defunct for years?
I think a lot's happening now. It's just they keep. My take is on safety. If you're talking about safety and permits,
Exactly what I'm talking about.
I think they keep throwing so much work on these people that, like, if you go to One Stop, which I hope everyone does when they take a listing or considers taking a listing, there's a lot of information in there. And now with Healthy Homes, comments will be withheld.
They're so healthy.
You need to see that they have a permit in there to rent a home, and if they don't, and you sell that house, and your client's thinking about renting it, I wonder if they're even going to be able to rent it. We have all these unintended consequences of reactionary legislation.
Mm-hmm.
Jeffrey, I think you need to back up about Healthy Homes.
Okay.
Confused.
Healthy Homes is the rental registry, right? Now, implementation has been delayed on units 1 through 3. We have till April, Cody, or May or something like that.
I think April.
There's a later date, but they were overwhelmed. People were caught off guard. But all your clients need to still do it, okay? But if you're a leasing agent, you've got to now go check to see that house is on the rental registry. Because there literally needs to be a permit as if they're selling alcohol that shows up on the city website that this is an apartment. Okay?
As if it's a commercial use.
As if it's a commercial thing. So there's all these new things, and what are we going to do? What if we sell a house, sell a double, and our client is counting on renting it, and the previous owner, or the people that you're buying it from, didn't get that permit? How's Safety and Permit's going to handle that? I don't even think they know yet.
Just more drama.
It's more drama and it's more reaction. And I guess...
Yeah, and look, we're
so
not...
what do you do? And I'm not trying to get you to comment on Healthy Homes. It's the law.
No,
now.
I understand.
But how do we weigh this? How do we convince some of these loudmouths in town that need, constant laws and rules to be quiet, and then let business and commerce take place?
Yeah. So part of the thing, I'm going back to I'm a data person. I follow the data, and so I think Safety and Permits would do so much better by following their own data, right? Like have a department that's just for Healthy Homes and helping people get this done quickly. Nothing feels quick about Safety and Permits right now, right? When I worked at Joe's office, I think this was after Ida, we tried to get them to have their own department just for getting generator permits done quickly, right? Because it's hurricane season's approaching again. Let's get these permits done and just have one person in charge of this. And they never followed that advice. But I think as a council person too, we can start. I want New Orleans to be a transparent, smart city, and I am working on a policy for that already. And part of that is making departments use data to make them work more efficiently. Because right now, I think we're just taking one by one permitting instead of actually kind of looking at it as a whole. Instead of each individual permit per day can seem daunting, but if you work in buckets instead. Let's work with Healthy Homes. Let's figure this out and how we can work efficiently instead of having 3 different people doing 3 different ways.
So I've got a question. Have you talked to other cities? Have you seen how other people can do it correctly?
I have studied, not for this particular issue, but I am studying other cities for the smart cities, I'm studying Seattle because they have a fantastic, and they started from where we are with nothing. So it can be done. Studying Baltimore for their homeless population, to how we could fix the homeless population. So I'm studying other cities to how they affected change and how we can do the same thing.
I mean, I've got our problem is we can't even sell houses because they've got a final permit that's been approved a month ago, but they can't get utilities.
Exactly.
I'm like,
exactly.
It's just so primitive. It's such a pity.
Yeah.
Karen, I'm going right back to you.
And it's part about working together and having those relationships with everybody, right? Safety and Permits will say, well, you have to talk to Entergy, and then you have to, and it's like, no, we need, a citizen, a resident, a business owner needs to talk to one person and get this all done.
And if we need to talk to Entergy all day, why doesn't an Entergy person just sit here?
Exactly. Have it.
If we're an alcohol city, get the alcohol person from the state with a desk there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Have a
Wall
task
Street,
team.
Wall Street firms, the regulator sits, the SEC guy sits in a chair in that office.
Agreed.
Got stuff to agree on.
Agreed.
Yes, ma'am.
Holly, I have 2 questions real quick. Where exactly is District A? I recently moved here from Georgia, so I'm not familiar with it. And the other one is, what is the average age of the bad actors that you collected data on?
Okay. So, good question. Let me start with the bad actors one just quickly, because District A can...
pull up the map?
Yeah, I was going to say, give it a little time to pull up the map. So, probably between 25 to younger, maybe 17,
Oh,
16. The juvenile crime is getting better because I think we're taking, again, their bad actors are the ones more influencing the juvenile crime. So, but around 20, 25, I think was about an average age, which is still sad.
District A is Lakeview to the Jefferson Parish line, to the other side of City Park,
and so
and all the way to the river, right?
yeah, all the way over. So, and that main boundary right there is Jefferson Avenue on the uptown side of Jefferson Avenue. The other side is District B of Jefferson Avenue.
This is where Jerusalem's at right now?
Yes, correct. So it's an interesting, like it covers uptown, it covers Holly Grove, it covers Mid-City, and Lakeview. So it's a lot of different neighborhoods, but at the end of the day, we have a very similar outlook on our neighborhoods, right? We want nice neighbors, we want crime to go down, we want a good quality of life, we want street lights to be working. So we have a lot of the same concerns in all our neighborhoods.
Hi, I just had a quick question. You kind of touched on homelessness and just what's your plan with that? You
I
said
know I
you
had
were
to bring up
starting-
something really easy to
I'm
discuss.
sorry. Well, just kind of in general. I mean, it just.
Yeah,
I know
no.
I know there's no easy, but
There's
but I think
no-
putting people in tents like Landry's doing right now is just that's not the answer.
So yeah, there's no, of course, right? There's no easy plan, but things that are hard aren't easy, and we need to tackle it and we need to confront it. So for me, for homelessness, it falls in, and again, this is I studied Baltimore because it's the closest kind of sister city, and there's other cities I'm studying, but there are basically four categories that we can place why someone is homeless, and there's lots of other reasons, but four main ones: mental health crisis, substance abuse. You have ex-military personnel that are suffering from their own trauma, and then you could have poverty. So, but right now, what the city I feel like is doing is not parceling out the reason or the need and kind of giving everyone the same services. But we need to specify what services is best for that person. So a lot of times when they're doing sweeps right now, they're not taking in so someone with substance abuse, right, doesn't want a bed at a facility because there are rules there, and you can't do drugs. You have to have a curfew, things like that. So they say no. So what do we do with that person now, right? So the people who want the beds, we're filling that need and getting them off the street and helping. But I think even once there, do we get this ex-military veteran? How do we get them the best services that they need to deal with their trauma that they have? Mental health, or do we need medication? Do they need a doctor? Like, what do they need? Taking them off the street or just it's not helping them to not be back on the street as well. And so we just have to deal with it and actually fix that kind of root problem. And poverty is probably the easiest one we can fix, right? Give them a bed, give them a skill, give them a trade, and help them move on to the next person. But at the end of the day, my stance really isn't that, well, you don't want a bed and you don't want services, we'll just, okay, you're fine right here. Like that's not working either, right? And I've had a lot of business owners say that they, especially in the French Quarter, right? Like we have a homeless population sleeping in front of our business. Like no one's stepping over them to get to our restaurant. Like we need more proactive. And so I think there's a good plan that's somewhere between what the city's doing right now and what the governor's doing to really provide services, but also say it's unacceptable to be on the streets as well.
Yeah. We let that issue get so bad.
Yes.
Any fix was going to be pretty awful.
Yes.
To people.
Yes. And we just, but trying to understand why someone is homeless and categorizing it and offering the correct services, I think it seems it is working in other cities, and that's what I'd like to see here.
James.
Are there stats or information on homeless people that are maybe going directly to jail or being taken off the street at that aspect of it? Because it can't just, I understand it's not just those four categories, and I know those are the ones that can really have a plan behind them, but there's got to be a function, a part of it that people are going to jail,
I
Is there
haven't really heard about anyone going to jail, and the jail can't afford
They
to.
can't,
I mean,
yeah.
that the jail has to do their own job of keeping. Jail needs to be where the bad actors, the violent crime, they need to be in jail. So having people who the jail can't afford to have that.
Yeah.
It's not a place you even want to warehouse somebody who hasn't committed a crime.
Well, I was just referring to the ones that may be committing the crimes. There's
Well-
no, I mean, to think that the homeless population, as big as it is in this city, that there isn't a percentage of people that are committing the crimes.
Well, if they're
As
committing,
victims of people
Sure.
living in neighborhoods,
Yeah.
I know that it's happening, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of the problem is the victims aren't reporting these type of situations because there's no repercussions to it, you know. So that kind of was my idea, because they can't have a community that large and not have people not offending the legal standards that we live by.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, because you have a particular knowledge base. He's going to need that back.
Well, it's not my knowledge.
You have a particular experience in this. You're concerned that there's an overlapping group of homeless or unhoused and criminals, and they're being pushed into neighborhoods, and they're causing, and they're committing offenses, and that's underreported. Is that the thinking?
I think that's my feel on it, that it's a lot of underreporting of it because the people on the other side don't think anything's going to be done anyway. You know, I mean, like a phone call this week, somebody decided to move into a vacant house this week and put boards up on the windows.
Yeah.
You know, if we weren't living next door and looking at these windows for a year and realizing, wait, plywood in front of the window, what's going on in there? Are they working on it? No permits, blah, blah, blah. There's a person living in it.
So what are
You
we
know, so
saying?
I need to approach this person and tell him to get the hell out.
I don't advise. Yeah. I think that's more of a phone call to the police.
So James should call the
Well,
police, not do it
yeah.
himself.
You should
Yeah.
call the actual owner.
Wait, what's the reluctance of calling the police? I'm trying to understand. I'm not.
All
Trying
right, a personal experience. I had a home invasion over a year ago at 3 o'clock in the morning. 6 police cars, 3 supervisors, and 7 police showed up at my house at 3 in the morning. They were so understaffed that they allowed the criminal that they took out of my bathroom in my home, sent him to the hospital on his own, and he was released with a warrant for his arrest. So I need to continue to live in my home and have concerns for my family's safety. Of course, we've put up a 7-foot fence. We're now living with bars on our doors. We've even considered vicious dogs to put in the yard. You know, you go through these stages of how can I protect my loved ones and me and my property. I've been robbed 3 times since I moved back 7 years ago. So the robbing part, the theft of it all is so minimal compared to someone invading your house at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And the excuse that was given to the police is that he was running for his life. Well, the police rationale is there's 3 other empty houses on this block and a dozen cars, and you chose the house that's occupied to come in. I understand that if they wouldn't have caught him in my bathroom, my memory would never have been able to point this person out. So they left victims standing in the middle of the street with their hands in the air saying, all right, the ambulance is gone, the police are now gone to their next, whatever it is, all of them, and we're standing here with nothing. We had a great organization. I was introduced through people that we know here and stuff to people that really helped. I mean, there are ground roots people that are there to help victims.
Yeah.
The problem is, from stage 1, I had to pay money to get the police report. Stage 2, I had to even go to the police department more than once just to fight for me.
Yeah.
So, to say a statement that theft and criminals are not intertwined in the homeless situation in the city is very naive, for one thing. And secondly, I, as a paying citizen, my property taxes have gone up.
Yep.
I pay for safety in the city. I pay for roads that work. I pay for the police department to take care of us. So us, as citizens, don't feel that we have an avenue to go through. I love Kirkpatrick. I think things are going great in the city criminal-wise. and it's going on the up to, it's going down, but it's a personal thing to me, and I deal with it on a regular basis, and I would be mortified if anyone that I cared about would have to go through that same thing. And I just think the behavior of it all, the dismissal of a victim in this city is atrocious. Because I could not go to another person that I cared about and said, I feel safety for you in this city, because I don't, And that's kind of where my initial thing came up, because, we've dealt with grunge, we've dealt with different elements of homeless people, and I understand the stats are showing differently, but to me, I can't feel naive enough to think that people aren't out there doing criminal activities based on the fact that they don't want a home, they don't want to follow rules, which is the base of a human right, to follow rules. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting a little emotional about it, but I just think that should be a part of it. I think this whole thing about being Pollyanna and saying that we have to help every single individual on the street is unrealistic, and I think that it really needs to be dove deeper than just sleeping on the street for 24 hours or visiting these encampments or, do we have a committee that is committed to homelessness in this city that meet on a regular basis, discuss the homeless situation and possible solutions that come out the other end?
I mean, I feel like they are, but they're no. And look, let me just say first, I understand. I feel for you that when you call the police, you expect when someone's in your home that the different action would be taken and that person would be arrested. And so I get that. And
by the way, just for the record, a situation happened with your boss shortly after that, and to see the swiftness of the political engine going for this person, because I like the gentleman, I think he's great, but you know what? For me to look at someone in that status, of course they're going to get results. Of course someone's going to go to jail. But in my situation, the person still lives on the streets of New Orleans.
Right.
And I'm not a victim. Don't get me wrong. I do not play myself as a victim. I just have to work a little harder to understand a place that I've lived for 58 years.
Yeah.
I think the basic thing that I think we all feel sometimes, and I don't think it's just a problem here, I think it is a problem everywhere, that the criminals have more rights sometimes than us as individuals, is how people feel.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
And I want to kind of we got to move on from this, but I do want to chunk up something because you mentioned something that Holly and I talked about in our pre-call. You express that you don't feel safe making the phone call to police because there's a high I'm guessing because there's a high likelihood that that person's going to figure out there's probably you all that called you and James. You all that called, and you don't want them coming back and having a safety issue.
Sure.
So how do we, as realtors, we see a lot. And I think we kind of turn our heads sometimes because we really don't want to be like, I got a property that this weekend, there's a homeless guy, and he was just he was staring at me like he was daring me to, waiting for me to pick up the phone and report him or something like that. He knew, he was like, I'm going to own this spot across from your business now. And and I was like, I guess I'm just going to swallow this one.
The squatter rights.
So what do you, is there any simple thing we can start?
I definitely, I think, even though it's hard, we definitely need to make those phone calls to the police and report it. Because without reporting, nothing's going to change either, right? And I think we had talked about, I'm working a lot in Pigeon Town right now, helping with there's a lot of abandoned properties that the homeless population are living there. And so that's one of the things I'm trying to work with the city too. It's we cannot have the people who live in Pigeon Town, who are residing here, who want to be good neighbors, living next to a house that's abandoned with a homeless population in there with no electricity and no water. So they're building fires, or they're running, as you would say, a criminal enterprise in there, dealing drugs even. That needs to be reported. And the neighbors in Pigeon Town feel the same way as you. I'm afraid to do the reporting. I'm like, call us at the DA's office. Let me do the reporting. Let me.
Thank you, because by copying our council, by the way, that should be your first step. If you're emailing someone, your council member needs to be the first one copied on that.
Absolutely.
Because the council members don't know, but when they are clicked into the situation, that's actually where I got the help.
Yeah.
To find help.
Yeah.
Was through the office of my representative. And it's because I copied him on it.
Yeah. Or you thought to do that. Like a lot of people, we need to tell people to do that, and we need to engage people, because reporting it is the first step, and it's scary, and I get that. But I can be that person that reports, and so you stay anonymous.
America now has a feral population of people.
Okay, we're over time. That's getting into a really. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying we can't get it on. Holly, when's the election?
October 11th.
October 11th. It's like dog years away. Okay, no, October 11th. Fabulous. That's going to be a big election, right? It is. That's mayor. That's everything.
That's mayor. That's sheriff.
No excuse for missing it.
All the council members are up for either open seats or re-election.
Okay, Holly, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.